Copper and Zinc. My name's Gabriella.
I'm Rachel.
And get started. Alright, so copper and zinc, they are both trace minerals, and a trace mineral is an amount required in less than 100 milligrams a day. And as a reminder, a micronutrient is needed in small quantities. And they are also essential, so that means they rely on the food to provide nutrients. And a couple examples of food high in copper are organ meats that you have like liver, and then foods high in zinc, shellfish, so oysters. And then these are a couple of their functions. As you can see, they they have a couple of the similarities. So copper's in orange, zinc is in gray. And with the blood pump for copper, it circulates through the body to the liver, so the liver helps with the red blood cell formation. And immune system and wound healing for zinc, it helps with, it's like when you're sick, you can often take that and it'll make you feel better.
Okay, so copper was first used in 8000 BC by Neolithic humans, which are like cavemen. And so they weren't using a pure substance of copper, they were using a copper ore, and that's why they used it for things like building and tools, because copper in itself is very malleable, it's very soft and a pure substance, so it was often used for like jewelry and pottery. And so copper mixed with zinc makes brass, and so that's a lot stronger of a material, and so that can be used for building and weapons. And so then in 1928, it was discovered that copper was a necessity to take in for regular homeostasis of humans. Okay, and so zinc was originally discovered by the Greeks, who called it pseudogyra, which means false silver or like silver. And so its chemical name is Zn, and its origin is Latin. The zinc we know now, zinc is Latin for zinc, and it was also originally used in weapons and building. And in 1960s, that's when it was proven that we need zinc for normal functioning of our bodies.
Okay, so the RDAs for copper is 900 micrograms a day, and for zinc, the RDA is 11 milligrams for males and 8 milligrams for females. And the best sources, or more examples of some sources, are avocados and mushrooms for copper, and spinach and cereal for zinc.
So here are just some more examples of good sources of copper, and the next one we're going to show good sources of zinc, but we also brought some things to pass around. So we've brought cashews because they're known to be high in copper, and so that's a good way that you can kind of get that in, and you can get that content in the cashews. And then we have cereal because foods that are high in zinc, we don't normally eat. Things like livers, things like oysters, things like chicken giblets, and so fortified cereal is a really good way to get that zinc content in your diet.
And so here are even more examples of copper. So we have kidney beans, lobsters, white beans, sunflower seeds. And then some of the zinc, we have crab, white beans, chocolate, and lamb. Alright, so next we're going to talk about toxicities. So here's some general factors. So you're going to see this a lot throughout the weeks, well, this week. So we have genes, supplements, and your environment's going to affect how much you intake. So copper toxicities are pretty rare. There's not that much research about it. Excess amounts are often found, well, they can be found in drinking water and contaminated soda. So that's going to give your soda and water a sort of metallic taste. And signs and symptoms include nausea, cramping, diarrhea, and in extreme cases, you're going to have liver damage. And the liver also, it regulates copper by turning the excess into bile, which is eventually eliminated through the feces. And zinc is also pretty uncommon. According to the book, typical symptoms, well, according to the book, you get poor immune function, depressed levels of your good cholesterol, and impaired copper status. And nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and loss of appetite are also common symptoms of that. And I have a story. So my mom, she was coming down with a cold, and it was just the beginning stages of it. So typical cold symptoms. She read on the internet somewhere that you could take zinc and that'll help you make you feel better. But, so she took her zinc pills and she started experiencing symptoms of vomiting and diarrhea, and she said, and I quote, she felt like dying. Turns out she took 250 milligrams, so she took 100, and the highest you're supposed to take is 40 milligrams, so she overdosed a lot. But she's all good now.
Okay, so some things that cause copper deficiency. The first is antacid, and antacid is something you would take when you have heartburn. So antacids reduce copper bioavailability because they react with copper to form an insoluble compound that the body just cannot absorb. And then also excess dietary calcium, iron, and zinc diminish copper absorption because they all require the same transport protein to be absorbed. And so when you have a large amount of those other three minerals, the copper will just go unabsorbed. And then copper deficiencies are seen in hospital patients and premature babies just because they're not getting enough dietary copper. And then lastly, when you think copper deficiency, you should think Menkes disease. And so what it is a rare genetic disease that causes decreased copper metabolism. So when you have this disease, you're going to be taking in your normal dietary copper, but you're going to you just cannot digest it, you can't metabolize it, so you're gonna have neurological defects, you're gonna have brittle skin, dry, brittle hair, and you're going to have bone issues with your bone strength and mass. And so some other signs and symptoms are going to be anemia, which is low red blood cell count. And this happens with copper because copper is super important in the formation of red blood cells. And so when you don't have it, you won't be able to make as many. And then also leukopenia, which is low leukocyte count, and a leukocyte is a white blood cell. And neutropenia, which is low neutrophil count. And both leukocytes and neutrophils are really important in your lymphatic response with your immune system. And so because copper is an important antioxidant, when you take it away, you don't have as many leukocytes, you don't have as many neutrophils, and so you're going to be more susceptible to pathogens invading your body and making you sick. So some other signs and symptoms: fatigue goes along with your anemia, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and in very severe cases, you will see neurological issues. Okay, so zinc deficiencies, the first one is the same as copper because dietary calcium, iron, and copper all use the same transport protein that zinc does. It will reduce that zinc bioavailability. Some other things are with a plant-based diet, so if you're mostly eating plant-based, you are going to see zinc deficiency because plants are really high in phytates. And so a phytate inhibits zinc absorption completely. And so if you remember, the foods that were high in zinc were a lot of livers and meats because the plants just don't really have that. And so other things are liver disease, impaired kidney function, and diabetes reduce zinc absorption. And then lastly, when you think zinc deficiency, you are going to think acrodermatitis enteropathica, which you're thinking, well, that's a crazy word, but acrodermatitis, you're thinking inflammation of the skin, and you would be totally right. What it is a rare genetic disease, and it causes a defect in the transport proteins that the zinc needs. So it is absolutely fatal if not treated, but you can live a totally normal life if you take a zinc supplement. And so your babies will present with it because they will have failure to thrive. So not only will they not be growing in length and weight, but their organs won't be growing normally. So some other signs and symptoms are going to be delayed growth, skin irritation and rash, leukoncia, diarrhea, underdeveloped genitals, and delayed sexual maturation. The leukoncia is the white spots on the nail beds, And if you're thinking, wow, a lot of these have to do with delayed growth, you're absolutely right. And that would just be because zinc is so important in maturation in the body. Okay, and so our little summary, copper, we remember that chemical symbol is Cu, it is a trace mineral, and we think Menkes disease, and with zinc, we're thinking Zn, and we are thinking acrodermatitis and terathopatica. So we have questions really quick. Zinc RDA for females.
Juliet. She's thinking, is it,
It's 8 milligrams. And then, what are 2 symptoms of copper deficiency?
and it's here.
You have fatigue and
Yeah. Great, and then for our planned activity, we have a crossword puzzle that we're all gonna go through together.
Okay, so you can take 1 minute, maybe quickly look at this because it covers a lot of key things that we just went over. So really quick in your notes, let's see, our crossed down white spots that form on nail beds with zinc deficiency. We're remembering that that is leucantia. Our 2 across copper is from the Latin word cuprum. We're remembering that a fungi is a good source of copper, that would be a mushroom, and a decrease in white blood cells caused by copper deficiency is leukopenia. So, some of those other things maybe you want to save for later, could be a fun pastime.